Yeah, Jonathan.
You're vegan, right?
Yes, that's right, I am.
Can I ask you some questions then?
Sure, man. Of course you can.
Are you ready for the questions then?
What are you waiting for?
Where do you get your protein? Protein, protein. Only meat has protein, so where do you get your protein?
Actually, lots of things have protein. Beans have protein. Greens have protein. Fruits and nuts have protein. Grains and seeds have protein. And here's the thing that's so obscene. Don't need so much protein. Most people eat more than they need.
Well, I never knew that before.
It's true.
Where do you get your calcium? Only milk has calcium. Healthy bones from cow's milk. Calcium, I drink it, yum.
Lots of plants have calcium and lots of calcium. And cholesterol, well, they have none of the fat found in milk.
Calcium, no fat? Greens give me calcium? What about our ancestors? Didn't they eat meat if I wasn't supposed to?
Well, that's Jonathan Mann with Vegan Myths Debunked, and I'm going to turn it down because I am so excited today. I have two of my heroes, my YouTube heroes, in the studio with me today, and we're actually being filmed, and so we will be on YouTube, and I'll send a link. I'll let you guys know about that more later. But I'm here in the studio with Al Schmidt and Tami Kramer, and these two people are the dynamic duo, I tell you. They're just amazing. I heard Al at Sacramento Veg Fest in January, and I was blown away, just blown away by his story. And then I got turned on to Tami through him and her YouTube channel. She has a YouTube channel called Nutmeg Notebook, and it's really interesting and helpful. So Al is... you will be able to see it. Normally I would say you can't see it, but you will be able to. He's like the most vibrant, thriving, healthy 82-year-old man I've ever met. And welcome, Al.
Thank you very much.
Good. And welcome, Tami.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I wanted to share Al's story with as many people as possible, because if you know anyone out there who has heart disease, like my mother did when she was 80 and died at 82 from heart disease, you need to share the story with them. Al, when did you first, you're 82 now, correct?
Yes, correct.
And when did you first know that you had heart disease?
I was bicycling when I was 48 years old, and I had chest pains. Well, the short story is that I had bypass surgery, whatever quintuple, whatever 5 is.
5, right?
5 bypass. And well, it was the most traumatic experience in my life. I felt like they put me in a gunny sack. All my ex-wives came and beat me with baseball bats, and then they threw me down the stairs, still in the gunny sack. And I got religion. I thought, I'm never going to go through that again. So this was in the 80s, and I gave up red meat, and I decided to go on a low-fat diet. Now, in 1980, 25 people were saying, oh, you could 35% of your diet should be fat. Well, I thought, no, that's too much. So I went to 20 to 25%. And I pretty much stayed on that I tried to stay on it, and I made it to my 80th birthday. I was so proud. But along the way, I started having chest pains. And so I went to see my cardiologist. No, let me back up a minute. In 2001, I was out bicycling again. I always try to stay active. And I had chest pains. And I was on a 12-mile bike ride. 6 miles into it, I had these chest pains. I came home, and the chest pains didn't go away. So I went to the emergency room, and I met a doctor who was I got to be great friends with. I didn't know what was happening, and she says, I'll be your cardiologist. And so I didn't, for today or when? And she says, oh no, until death do us part. And I love somebody with a sense of humor. So they put a stent in me. Well, I had been through bypass surgery. A stent was like a walk in the park. I went in the hospital overnight, and I came out, and to this day, I still think I had a stent back in 1985, would I have changed my lifestyle? As the stent, you felt like nothing happened and you back to normal. It was wonderful. But as I got older, in my 70s, I moved to El Dorado Hills and I was bicycling 10, 15 miles a day. And all of a sudden I couldn't bike as far. I couldn't walk as far. So they gave me some medication. And the medication brought me back to normal or healthy again, or so I could exercise without pain. But I knew there was something there. So what can you do? So pretty soon I couldn't walk at all. And at my 80th birthday, I was in pretty bad shape.
Did you get one stent, or did you end up getting more stents?
Well, that stent actually worked really well, the one I had in 2000, but I've had two since then that didn't do any good at all.
Okay, so then after that, when you found that you started not being able to walk and not be able to exercise?
Yes, I was a cardiac, or Dr. Esselstyn called them cardiac cripples, invalid, and I really couldn't do anything. At the end, I couldn't do anything but watch TV and stay in front of my computer, and I hate TV. So
you couldn't even take the trash cans out?
No, our driveway is on an incline, and I could take them up, but I couldn't get them back in even when they were empty.
And you couldn't get up the stairs in your own house?
I spent $10,000 on stair lifts, which is a lot of money, but it's cheaper than moving.
And then you decided, well, maybe you'd be good enough to take this long-desired Paris trip?
Well, I promised my wife I'd take her to Paris, and you know how that goes. So I looked into it, and they said, oh, no, there's no walking, and everything will be fine. Well, we get to Paris, and they have a tour of the tube, or the underground, or the subway, whatever they call it there. So we're going along, and I'm with a group, and if you don't stay up with a group, you're in trouble. So they were walking a little faster than I was comfortable walking, but it wasn't very far. But we got into the subway, and the escalator was broken in the subway.
Oh, no.
So I walked up the stairs, had terrible chest pains, and I started popping nitro pills. Now, I had taken like half a bottle of pills. I went through those the first day. And I thought, this is not good. This is not right. So I called up a doctor and I said, I bought trip insurance, which you do when you're in your 80s. And so I said, all right, I want to go home. I want the doctor to examine me and say, yeah, you can go home. Well, he wanted me to go to the hospital. Well, understandably, if you're 80 years old, you have history of cardiac problems, and you got chest pains, they want to put you in the hospital. I thought, they're not getting anywhere near me. So he took my wife aside and said, don't let him fly. He'll kill him. He'll never make it home. But I did.
And so you would say that, what did your doctor say when you came back to the United States? Did they say that there was anything they could do for you?
Well, yeah, no, there was nothing they could do for me. They had already told me when they put the last stent in that the problem was the blockage of the little tiny vessels of my heart, something that they can't work on. Well, if they can't fix it, they think it can't be fixed. So they said, no, there's nothing we can do to you. So I got home, and they said, that's it. You're just going to have to live with it, or barely live with it. But what happened is I signed up in a moment of hope. I signed up for cardiac rehab. And I could barely walk into the door. I'm into the classroom. So I got there, and the first half was on exercise. I'm thinking, exercise? I can't even walk. You want me to do exercise? I was so depressed, I had to look up to see the curb. I mean, it was terrible. So the next half of it, I sit through that because that was nothing else I could do. So the next half had to do with diet. Now, this interests me. They give you a passed out handouts, and in the handout they had pictures of an angiogram, on two angiograms. One on the left side was, and the right side were 32 months apart, not even 3 years. And it was amazing, the pictures. Now, I'd seen a lot of angiograms because I'd been in the hospital a lot. And I thought, if I could do this, I just said, this is hope. If I could do this, I can live. Because I really didn't think I had 3 months to live. While I was looking through my notes before I came here today, I found a little thing that says, ask and see if Kaiser has end-of-life support. Because I figured I was on the way out. So I think, okay, I don't care, if I can do this, maybe I can live. I wasn't sure I could live the 3 months, but I'd sure as heck give it a try. So I did it. I went and they recommended 3 books. One was Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn, and that was my Bible. That was the book that saved my life. Then the next book was How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. And that book spoke to me. The very first page in that book, he talks about why he went into medicine. He went into medicine because his grandmother was dying. She was 65, and she was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't do anything. She got herself to California, went into a program, and in 3 weeks, she was walking 10 miles. And that just gave me another whole bunch of hope. And the last book was The China Study by T. Colin Campbell. And it's a research. It's a book about his research and how he got to where talking about plant-based diet. And you had these 3 people. All of them wrote books. All of them from different disciplines, and all of them coming from different geographic places. And they all came to the same conclusion. So I was pretty sure I wasn't onto just a cult type thing. I was pretty sure this was pretty reasonable. But you want to check. So I called my cardiologist up and I said, what do you think about me going on a plant-based diet? And she said, well, it'll do more for you than medicine can. And I thought, well, duh. They'd already told me they couldn't do anything for me. So yes, and it did. Shall I go on?
Absolutely, go on. This is the good part, the good news part of the story.
This is the good news.
So if you're just tuning in right now, we're talking with Al Schmidt. He's 82 years old. He was an absolute cardiac invalid at the age of 80. He couldn't even walk to take his trash cans out. He couldn't walk up the steps. He couldn't go to Carson City where the elevation is high. He couldn't take any trips. He was ready to die. He was ready to die. And then he heard about plant-based nutrition. And then what happened, Al?
Well, I had, as you said, I had made peace with my maker. I was ready to die, but still something was going on upstairs. So I went on this diet. Now, I want to backtrack a minute. I had gone on a trip with my buddy, camping trip, and we'd gone to Carson Cities. Now, what do guys do when they're on their own? They go to a hardware store. So we went to the hardware store. It was a Lowe's, and I was at one end, and he was at the other end. And Carson City is at 4,700 feet high.
Yeah.
And I started walking to meet him in the middle of the store, and he looked at me and he said, Al, my God, you look terrible. And he loaded me back up in the truck, and we drove home. All right, I went on this diet, Dr. Esselstyn's diet, and in 4 weeks, he and his wife and me and my wife went up to have lunch in Tahoe at 6,000 feet. And I had a nice salad with a no-fat salad dressing. And then we decided to walk down to the lake. We walked down to the lake, and I walked a mile at the lake at 6,000 feet and then climbed up 2 flights of stairs to get back to my car. And I ripped out the stair lifts in my house, and I walk 2 miles every day, and then 3 or 4 days a week I walk 4 to 6 miles. And
so you went from not being able to walk really at all and not being able to travel at all, and you went on a whole food plant-based diet, low fat whole food plant-based diet, and in 4 weeks you were like back to...
In 4 weeks, yes.
And what is a whole food plant-based diet? What does Dr. Esselstyn recommend that you eat?
Glad that you asked. Well, now I forgot what it is now. Oh, yes. Now, these are his words. It's not me being a smart aleck, but he says, you can't eat anything with a mother.
And I'd like to add to that, I don't eat anything that poops.
Or has a face. Oh, well, yeah, I could buy that one, too.
So nothing with a mother that has a face.
Has a face. You cannot eat any dairy products or eggs.
Yes.
You must not consume oil of any kind, not a drop.
No oil, people.
oil.
Hear that? No oil.
You cannot eat nuts or avocados. This is a tough one because I used to love avocados. But if you think about it, nuts and avocados are very high on fat. No sugar. And if you do this, you will end up low fat. You have to watch it because it's the fat content should not be more than 9 to 11%. And then avoid processed food because that's where you get sugar and salt.
And salt, yeah. So basically, it's a whole food, plant-based diet was absolutely, and when we say whole foods, that eliminates oil because oil, hello out there, extra virgin olive oil is not a whole food. They have to do a lot to those olives to get that stuff out of them.
Absolutely.
So it was able. Did you get an angiogram to see what happened to those small blood vessels?
No, you don't want to have angiograms. You don't want. That's an invasive procedure. But after in January, let's see. I started this diet in July of 16, and in January of 17, I went for a routine checkup with my cardiologist, and she said, "Do you have any angina?" No, she hadn't seen me for a while. Do you have any chest pains? No. Because are you taking Imdur? I was taking time release nitro. I'm not taking that. No. Are you taking Renexa, drug that opened up my arteries? No. Are you feeling dizzy? No. Are you falling down? No. And I was taking so many of the drugs that my side effects were dizziness and I wasn't able to walk. And I said, not only that, I've climbed all 4 stairs up to your office.
4 flights of stairs to get to her office.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
So how long was that? That was about 6 months?
that was about 6 months when I finally went to her. But I had all of those effects much sooner.
That's the amazing thing. If you would have known about this when you got your heart bypass at 48, was that?
Right.
48, you wouldn't have had to have a heart bypass, and you would have had all those years behind you.
I wouldn't have had the first one.
The first one, yeah. So I want people out there, if you know anybody who has heart disease, who's thinking about getting a bypass, first try it. Try it. It took you like 3 weeks or 4 weeks before you were...
You'll see the results in 3 weeks.
That is amazing.
The only reason, I may have seen it sooner, but you're still an invalid. You still don't want to test yourself because you have no idea how crippling it is to do any exertion at all and to have this terrible thing that clutches you in your heart. And it's terrible pain. It's very frightening.
Yeah, I was with my mom once when she had a heart attack. It was really horrible. It's horrible, and it's a really scary thing. And the interesting thing to me is I have 2 of my closest friends have heart disease, and one of them is a Japanese man who's very slim, and he's a marathoner, runs marathons. And I got him finally to read Dr. Esselstyn's book, and now he doesn't, he had several stents that wasn't helping. He was on his way to a bypass, and he's doing really well now. And my other friend is a long-distance bicyclist in the Sonoma Hills. Exercise, people, will not keep you from getting heart disease. It's the food. It's the food.
Your body has a miraculous ability to heal itself if you let it.
If you stop knocking it down all the time. And, some people say, well, your father died, right?
My father died at 59.
So people say, well, it's just your genes.
Genetics.
It's
I
genetic.
always thought it was genetics.
Yeah. Well, as Dr. Campbell says, genes may be the gun, but the food are the bullets.
Yes.
So even if you have heart disease in your family, you do not have to succumb to it. You do not. Oh, and I guess I should say, the views and opinions expressed on KVMR are those of the speaker only, and not necessarily those of KVMR management staff or underwriters. But talk about the research. Can you find in your papers there that Dr. Esselstyn? I don't think it's an opinion because there's really good research to back this up.
I happen to know that one. He took 22 cardiac invalids, and that other doctors didn't think they had a chance to live. Actually, people like me. And he put them on this diet. And he did a couple of things a little bit differently. He actually counseled them an hour a week, each one of them. And of the 22, there were 24, excuse me, there were 6 of them that couldn't do it. They said, I just can't go on this diet, I can't do it, so they dropped out. So he ended up with 18 people that stayed on the diet. Of those 18, one of them went out of compliant a little bit, had chest pains, went back on the diet, and the chest pains went away. 20 years later, those 18 were still alive and kicking and doing well. The 6 people that dropped out all assumed room temperature and are no longer around.
And these are people that they had sent home saying there's nothing that they could do for them,
That's correct.
Just like you and Dr. Greger's mother, and yeah. So
now, may I tell you how it's turned out?
yes, please.
All right. First, I have no angina.
Yay!
I can walk long distance. I can climb stairs, and I'm mobile again. And not only that, I just built a wall, and I went out in the country and picked up a couple 100 pounds of rocks and brought them back in my truck and put them out. And so I'm doing some landscaping.
Blessed be, blessed
Yes,
be.
and I enjoy doing that. So the quality of my life is so much better. It's just unreal. My cholesterol went from, my cholesterol went from 196 to 149 in 3 months. I lost 30 pounds. I'm 5'11", so I went from 180 to 150, and actually, I know I'm down to about 148 now, and I'm not doing anything different. Well, I am. I started yoga, so I'm doing a little bit different. My kidney functions went from down 40%, down to 40% down, back to normal, and I have much more energy. Well, I already told you about that. I don't get these ugly-looking bruises and marks on my hands like old people do. And I had a condition on my ankles where my skin turned blue, and it was just really poor circulation. And after about 11 months, that went away. And also went away when I was 48, when you have bypass surgery, they strip a vein from your leg, and they put it in your heart. And about in my 60s, my left foot was always swollen. I'd look down and you couldn't see the veins in my left foot. And about 3 months or 4 months ago, I was in the shower and I looked down and my left foot was exactly the same as my right foot. My PSA when I was in my 70s was 7, which it's about, I think they expect it to get higher as you get older. That's quote unquote normal. But the fact of the matter is I had it tested when I went to Dr. Mcdougall's program, and it tested at 3.8.
So tell people what PSA is.
Oh, I'm not sure I know. It's a marker for
your prostate. Yeah. It's for your prostate marker.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about Dr. Mcdougall's program. I forgot that you went to that.
That was very interesting, and I cannot recommend that highly enough. I went there. It's a 10-day live-in program. When you first go there, they weigh you and they interview you, and find out what medications you're on, and you have to bring your medical history. You can't just show up. And I sort of sent them a Reader's Digest of my medical history, and I got an email back saying, no, that's not enough. We want to know everything. So you show it to them. There were 55 people there. There was a group from England. There were people from Australia, all over the United States.
India, too.
India,
Yeah.
one woman from India, which is vegetarian, which I thought was interesting.
They used to be, not so much anymore.
Yeah, and there was a gal that sat next to me, and she was piqued. I piqued her interest because I told her about my kidney function, and she had signed up for the kidney transplant program because you have to sign up for that. Now, she never told me what her kidney function was, but she did tell me at the end of the program that her kidney function drastically improved. And the other thing I remember from the program, they didn't say who it was, but it was one of the participants had type 1 diabetes, which, as we know, is not curable. but she was taking 100 milligrams, he or she was taking 100 milligrams a day of insulin, and by the end of the 10-day program, they were taking 30 milligrams. And the gal that had the room down for me was a big, heavy gal. And at the very last day, she came skipping down the aisle, and I looked at her, and she said, "I'm so happy." And I said, "Why? Because you're losing weight?" And she says, "No, because I can skip." Her knee hurt so bad she couldn't do anything.
So I'm curious, why did you go to the Mcdougall program if you already had such success changing the way you ate?
Well, it's an interesting story. I wanted my wife to, I have had such good luck with this. I wanted her to take this program. She had had a stroke and she's had cancer. And both of these things can be ameliorated and stopped dead in their tracks by a plant-based diet. So, like a silly person that I am, I signed her up for it and then told her about it. And she dug her heels in and said, "No, I'm not going to go." And so we can't afford it, which I knew wasn't true. And I said, "Yes, we can, because I'm going to go." So I went, and even though I had already been on the diet, I was sort of, people there appreciated it because I'd been on it 11 months by the time I went. So I was sort of an inspiration for them. And I said, "Yes, you can do it." And I'd lost 30 pounds. Now, while I was there, halfway through, I gained a pound because they feed you really well. So I wanted to try everything, and I did. And so then for the second half, I ate my normal amounts, and I lost the weight.
The Mcdougall program is in Santa Rosa, California, and you can just go online, Google Mcdougall.com, I think it is. DrMcDougall.com.
I cannot recommend it highly enough. It will change your life to the better.
And one thing I admire about Dr. Mcdougall is that all of his information is available for free. If you can't afford the 10-day program, or they have 3-day programs, you can find out everything you need online. And I'm a big starchivore. I love the Starch Solution book. It really has changed my husband and my life. And so we went on that and eliminated the oil. My husband lost 70 pounds. I lost 30 pounds. Yeah. And I feel so much better.
You do. You have more energy.
Yeah, and my color is good. My doctor said, "Your color is really good."
Well, he brings in chefs, 3 different chefs and dietitians, and it's well worth it. And the thing is, you need 10 days because you are given so much information. You need that 10 days to think about it.
So, what's your typical day like food-wise? I know you have oatmeal for breakfast.
Oatmeal for breakfast, and then I batch cook because Tami has taught me how to do that. So I make up 2 or 3 different meals, and I put them in the fridge. So I always go to the fridge, and I've got something that I'm very good at heating up. I had to learn to cook myself, so and Tami's blog is a wonderful resource for that.
And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes here. Do you eat a lot of beans and greens?
Yes, so I eat my greens, which are arugula, spinach, and kale. And I steam them for 7 minutes, and then I put balsamic vinegar on them, and they're delicious. And I have that every day at 2:30. And then the dinner, whatever I eat for dinner that day, I'll have usually enough for lunch for the next day.
Does your wife eat the food that you cook, or does she eat her own?
Pretty much. She's pretty good at it. But then she will go out with friends, and social pressures will cause her to have meat, and then she comes home and she has stomach disorder. And I really don't gloat about that at all.
You know, I heard you say on your presentation that you do something that I do. This is an alma powder.
Yes.
From Dr. Greger turned me on to that. And it's like ground grape seed? Is it? No.
It's ground berry.
Some kind of berry, and it's from India.
What it is right
I can't
now.
either, but I take
Indian,
that.
Gooseberry.
Gooseberry, that's
Indian
it.
Gooseberry, yes.
I take that for my cholesterol because I'm having trouble getting my cholesterol
Now,
down.
I want to give a shout out to Dr. Michael Greger's website, nutritionorg.
Nutritionfacts.org,
Yes.
yeah.
And I get that email every day with a video, and I learned something. I'm still, after 22 months, I'm still in the learning phase. Well, I'm going to learn my whole life.
Hopefully.
Yes.
You know, I had Dr. Greger on this radio show a couple of times. He's lots of fun. He does a whole interview on his treadmill. You can kind of hear it going. And he's just a lighthearted guy, and I really highly recommend his nutritionfacts.org. Also his book, How Not to Die. That's a fabulous book. I really like that a lot. And I let Linda Middlesworth interview Dr. Esselstyn on my show when he was going to be a speaker. So he's the one who wrote the book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And Esselstyn, Esseltyn, I think. Yes. So those are really good resources. And how did you find your social life? And this is where Tami's going to come in. How did you find your social life after you became what I call a hardcore vegan?
That's a fair statement. Yes, I am a hardcore vegan. I don't use the word vegan. I use plant-based.
Yeah.
Because I went on a vegan cruise. Did I tell you that?
Oh, tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I went on the first ever all-vegan cruise to Norway. And so I said to my wife, I said, honey, I bet you there aren't going to be any fat people on that. Well, there were. They worship olive oil. And Dr. Geiger was on that.
Dr. Greger was on that cruise?
Dr. Greger, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mispronounced his name. Dr. Greger was on that. And they asked him, they said, well, what about olive oil? Isn't it good for you? And being very diplomatic, he said, well, you take a bushel basket of olives, you squeeze all of the oil out of it, and then all the nutrients are left in the olives, which you throw away. And so he didn't really say it was bad, but it's very high caloric in density. And when you, instead of eating that, you could be eating healthy stuff. It was interesting. I enjoyed the all-vegan cruise, but I signed up for another one in March of this year. So
where's that going to?
It's going to go in the Caribbean and south. And I called them up and I said, now, is this one going to be good? And they said, well, yes, we're going to have this is going to be compliant with Dr. Esselstyn's. I said, are you sure? They said, yes. So then I called up somebody else, like the chef, and talked to them. And I said, well, I was on the first ever vegan cruise, and I was not happy with the food. And they said, oh, yeah, that was a disaster.
That sounds like fun. Is your wife going with you?
Yes.
Good, good. So at least you're still happily married if this hasn't caused a riff.
Well, it's not a big riff.
So how did you find your social life after you changed the way you eat?
I didn't find it. Actually, Tami found it for me.
So that's Tami Kramer. Thank you. Welcome to SOS Radio. Tami has a really good YouTube channel called The Nutmeg Notebook. So take it away, Tami.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I also have a blog, nutmegnotebook.com, and I'm on Facebook as Nutmeg Notebook. And I went to a vegan meetup group in November last year at a local restaurant in Rockland, California called Zest. And this nice older gentleman came in and he said, have you been here before? And I said, yes. And he said, well, can you help me pick something out on the menu that would be no oil? And it happened to be Al. So I gave him a suggestion of something to order, and he did. And we listened to the speaker that was there that night, and then we got to talking, and he said, are you plant-based? And I said, I am. And he said, do you eat oil? And I said, no. And he said, give me a high five. And he said, you are my new best friend. And so then he proceeded to tell me his story, and I was so inspired by him. And so we did become fast friends, and he found out that I had a group that walked on Wednesday mornings, and we walked between 5 and 6 miles, and he said, do you ever let men come? And I said, well, we would let you come. And so he started joining us for our walks, and he told me that he realized that in order to be successful at this new lifestyle, that he was going to have a new circle of friends. And I shared with him that my husband and I, when we transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet in 2013, that it did shake up our social life, and our friends who were really in love with the way they ate no longer wanted to dine with us. And so we also had to find new friends and new social outlets. And so then we met for lunch one day, Al and Tom and I and a couple of my friends, because I wanted to introduce Al to them. And he said, I complimented Al and said, you're being so diligent about this. I really admire how you're being so active about going about changing your social life. And he said, hey, at my age, I don't have time to mess around. and I thought, well, really, do any of us? Because none of us know, right, when our time is going to be up. And so then I asked him if he would let me tell his story on my blog. I said, because I run into people all the time that have an uncle, an aunt, a brother, a sister,
a child,
yeah, a father, someone that they love and care about, who they know that a change in lifestyle could change their life. And I thought Al could inspire them. And he was like, oh, no, my story's not inspirational. I said, well, I believe it is. So, if you'd be willing to allow me to share it on my blog, I would like that. And so he finally, he said, okay, I still don't believe I'm inspirational, but okay, I'll go along with it. And so we posted it in 2 different posts, and people went crazy. I started getting emails from people saying, I sent Al's story to my dad. I sent it to my brother. I gave it to I gave your blog post to my neighbor to read, and it's powerful, and he's changing people's lives. He really is. I to this day, it's been months since we did it, and people still will send me an email and tell me stories about how it's been impactful on their family members or their friends. So that's how our relationship started. And I had a food blog before I went plant-based, and in 2013, my LDL cholesterol had been climbing, and my doctor said, well, if this keeps happening, then we're going to end up having to put you on a statin. And I said, no way, I'm not going to do that, because I know that there's a lot of side effects to that. And I thought I was eating a really healthy diet, low fat, low fat dairy and so forth. I thought I was doing it all right. Well, I went home and started doing research on the internet, and I came across Dr. Furman and learned about a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. And I got up the courage to tell my husband that I thought I wanted to do this, because he was a really big meat eater, and I wasn't sure how this was going to go over. But he said, I'll support you, and I'll eat whatever you want to make, but, you can't box me into a corner, because, I can't be told that I can't eat the things I want to eat. And I said, oh, hey, no problem. Well, he's kind of a lazy cook. He kind of likes to come in to dinner and have it sitting there on the table. So initially he would still make himself something meat-based on the side and use what I was having as a main meal as his side dish. But, it took a little while, but over time then he decided to join me in eating this way. We both lost weight. Even though his LDL cholesterol wasn't high, his still dropped significantly. Mine dropped like 30 points down to a really comfortable level. And we lost weight, about 30 pounds each, felt tremendous.
And looked tremendous, both of you.
Thank you. And we thought, this is the way to go. And so at the time I was trying to decide whether to keep my blog going or not, because, I had started it before I'd gone plant-based. But then someone had said to me that, having this knowledge about how your lifestyle can change the direction of your life, that really needs to be shared. And those of us who know this really have an obligation to help spread that message in our community. And so with that in mind, and my husband retired, we decided this could be our mission then for our retirement years, to help spread this. And so then we decided, let's start a YouTube channel and let's teach people how to get healthy one meal at a time.
I love your YouTube channel. I love the one about the balsamic vinegar. That looks real. I haven't made it yet.
You have to make that. Is one of the best no oil salad dressings. It's super popular.
And she has really cute videos about Whole Foods shopping and what kind of things she gets at Whole Foods and what she makes with it, and Trader Joe's shopping, and it's very informative. And you've got a couple of thousand viewers, so that's good.
Yeah, I have. I'm about 2,800, something like that.
Almost
right now.
3,000.
Yeah, I'm
And
growing.
after today, people, when you sign up on her Nutmeg Notebook YouTube channel, she'll hit the 3,000 mark,
That's right. I'd love that.
Yeah. I think it's a fine line when you have information that can save someone between, being a nag and just being the change. It's really hard. It's my mission. I came through this from animal rights, and I really want to stop the animal torture that happens around the world. 10 billion animals a year, billion with a B, But I also want to help my friends change their lives, so that's important too. So we have about 6 or 7 minutes. So Al, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, along that line, when I first went through this, it was so unbelievable. I almost didn't believe it myself. It was really hard. So I went out and I bought a dozen each of the 3 books, and I gave them to my friends and family and everybody, and they just gathered dust.
Which 3 books, in case somebody is tuning in?
How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn, How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger, and The China Study by Dr. Campbell. And I gave them to everybody because they just did so much for me, and they spoke to me. Well, they didn't speak to other people. And so I've sort of come to the realization that you have to be ready to hear it. And, of course, by almost dying made me really ready to hear it.
It's a wake-up call for you.
Yeah, big wake-up call. Interestingly enough, I have a very good friend. He's an ex-nuclear physicist, very sharp guy. And he went in for a angiogram. And before he went in, I said, don't sign up for it. Go on this diet because he saw what it did for me. He was my buddy that was in the hardware store. He was my buddy.
The Carson City buddy, yeah.
Yeah, and so he saw what it did for me. And I said, you can go on this diet. So he went in, they came back, and his arteries were clogged, but not enough for them to do anything. I said, but now you've got a warning. You can go on this. So he spent 6 months in the winter down south. And so he came back, and I said, well, did you stay in the diet? No. Well, how come? He says, well, I really like what I eat, and I like this and that. And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, I'll wait until I get sicker, and then I'll go on the diet. And I thought, oh, my goodness.
Well, something like Dr. Greger says 50% of people in their first heart attack die.
Yes.
So you might not get a chance.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was blessed.
You're blessed. And that's what I think. I think that for some reason, I became vegan overnight. And so it was like a calling, it was like I was blessed. I'm so grateful for that. I am so grateful for that. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. And we've been talking with Al Schmidt, who is 82 and just beautiful, handsome, got the best skin you can imagine, and Tami Kramer from the Nutmeg Notebook, the YouTube channel. And we're having fun here. And guess what? Tammy's husband, Tom, right? Tom is filming us right now, and we are going to be on YouTube. Something I didn't know is that KVMR has a YouTube channel. So when this gets posted, I don't know, probably be a few days before we do that. It'll be on Tammy's blog, and it'll also be on KVMR's YouTube blog. So you get to see how beautiful these people are. And you too can be beautiful. So Tami, wrap it up and whatever else you have to say.
Well, I just want to say that we wouldn't stay on this diet if the food didn't taste good.
Oh, that's right.
And so the food has to be appealing. And we cook this way for our family and our friends when they come over, and everyone loves the food. So if you're kind of on the fence and thinking about doing it, why not just jump in and give it a try? Because there's really no negative side effects. It's good for your health, it's good for the environment, and it's good for the animals.
Absolutely. And the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM.org, has a 21-day Kickstart program. They'll send you really good recipes every day, and it's not hard. I love their Indian Kickstart. I'm still making recipes from that. Some of my favorite blogs, besides Tami's, are Fat Free Vegan.
Yes, I love her.
Yes.
I like that. She's got good, really yummy recipes.
Brand New Vegan is good too.
Yeah, Brand New Vegan.
Brand New
Awesome.
Vegan. There's so much information out there. Oh, Forks Over Knives. If you don't
Yes.
want to read the China study, which I bought, but I had a really hard time getting through that book. It's so scientific. Watch Forks Over Knives. It's streaming on Netflix. Anybody can sit and watch it. It's so convincing. It is so convincing. And they send out, Forks Over Knives website sends out really good recipes too. I mean, there's recipes out there, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Like Al, I usually cook a big bunch of beans. Like yesterday, I cooked this Cuban bean dish with butternut squash, Yukon potatoes, and white beans. And you just cook that in water. And then you make this thing called sofrita that you put on it. You take cilantro and garlic and lemon juice and a couple of jalapenos, and you chop all that up in the food processor, and you put that in it. It is delicious.
It sounds wonderful. I want that recipe.
It is so good. So I have some people to thank. So I think that's about it for today. Thank you, Tami Kramer from Nutmeg Notebook.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Al Schmidt. You know, I know there's somebody out there today who needed to hear what you have to say, and I know it's not comfortable to always do this kind of thing, but thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's get to some business here. So we have underwriters to thank. We have people to thank Grateful Body Skincare of Nevada City. They're handcrafting holistic botanical facial care products utilizing organic, vegan, non-GMO ingredients. Family owned and operated for over 20 years, available locally and at gratefulbody.com. We'd also like to thank the Sacramento Vegan Society, a social and lifestyle group for the vegan curious, aspiring to lead a compassionate way of life through vegan food choices. They meet regularly for social mixers, educational presentations, and mentoring. SacramentoVeganSociety.com. Nectar Cafe in Auburn, offering fresh-made organic, vegetarian, and vegan food with gluten-free options. Open daily 11 to 8:30 with outdoor dining, serving burgers, tacos, salads with local beer and wine. Nectar-cafe.com. And also we'd like to thank the Zest Vegan Kitchen, an organic, plant-based grill and vegan restaurant in Rockland, formerly called the Bagan Restaurant. They serve wraps, soups, salads, smoothies, teas, and more with Ayurvedic, Indian, and East Asian spices and ingredients. ZestVeganKitchen.com. And Milkman Toner Company provided local hometown service for network printers, copiers, and scanners, carrying environmentally safe manufactured toner cartridges with printer support, serving Northern California companies, also San Francisco to Lake Tahoe. MilkmanCompany.com. Thank you so much for listening. And if you didn't get to pledge last week on the pledge drive, and if you like shows like this on SOS Radio, you know you can call and donate anytime and mention SOS Radio. And I also want to thank all the KVMR staff and board for letting us do this show. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to the people in the community. So we're on the fourth Wednesday of the month, so we'll be on next month. I hope to have someone from Anonymous for the Voiceless, and if you don't know what that is, you can just go to YouTube and put in Anonymous for the Voiceless, and you'll find out. And also someone from Direct Action Everywhere. I'm going to the Animal Liberation Conference in Berkeley this Sunday. I'm so excited. I'm going to get to see Glenn Greenwald, so that's really cool. So thank you for listening, and take care, and I'll see you next month.